So I am here. Thank you, anybody who's joining. Here we go. I am here to talk to Mike Boyne. But if you have any questions, so he runs the best indie in the UK. And if you have any questions for him about wine, about independent retail, about facial hair, hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, how you doing?
Look at me and you both with our big hair.
I know. Look at this. I Have you had any birds nesting in there yet?
Oh man, I don't know. It's getting a bit out of control. I'm approaching the point where I can get a top knot going on, which would be well,
Oh
it'd be
no,
an awful.
don't. I mean, I respect you. I like you, but a top knot is probably gonna. That's probably gonna. Yeah, I don't know. Could you? Could you pull it off?
It's getting there. I could do a little diddy one.
Oh, dearie me, dearie me.
I think I think I could rock that look. But yeah.
I think you
Uh,
could. I mean, the beard's looking. That's a good bushy bit. That's what a beard should look like, isn't it?
well, I'm feeling inadequate because I just caught the tail end of your other live broadcast. You had some ridiculously good-looking guys on the broadcast there. I almost rung off and said, "Forget it, I'm not coming."
Yeah, that's this, you see, because hopefully this stops people looking at that. I mean, ultimately, this stops people looking at this. That's they see it and they go, "Oh, we're off." How's business been post lockdown?
Well, kind of highs and lows. So, as you know, others may not. We're a wine merchant, come wine bar, all the way down in Padstow in Cornwall, which is obviously pretty seasonal. So we just sort of limp through the winter really, and you're hanging on waiting for the season to start again. And just as things were starting to look like they were picking up in the way they normally do, obviously we hit lockdown. So what we've not seen, like some wine merchants around the country are reporting, we've not seen an incredible kind of boost to trade, and good on them. I'm pleased for them, but I guess it's just sort of hammered home that we really are dependent on that seasonal trade, and given that we went down the hybrid model route, half bar, half wine merchant, all of a sudden, sort of 50% of our 50% of our takings with the bar sales, just went out the door. But on the upside, historically, we've really done very little by the way of home delivery or mail order, and we've been ticking along nicely with that, with a healthy amount of mail order and local home delivery, a lot of which has come from new customers who I don't recognise, as well as some
Okay.
really support that I do. So if out the other end of this, assuming we survive, but if out the other end of this we could hang on to half of that as an additional arm to what we do, we've kind of got into a really nice rhythm with the mail order and home delivery now. So looking for the upsides, if we can hang on to that, it could be a really nice addition to business once we're through the lockdown.
So I don't know if you've watched Brad's show, The Wine Social Live. I don't know if you've seen any of that. The main difference between sort of what Brad does and what I do is that he's actually good. And
Oh, my
you,
expectations are really low, mate. Me and you, we're bottom feeders together.
well, I was going to put myself slightly higher, but it's good to know where I stand in your estimations. But what I've realised through watching Brad is what you can do. You can press a button and like bring up a map. So I could sort of go, for those of you who don't know Mike and been to, it's in Padstow and Cornwall, I can press a button and bring a map up to show them, but I'm not very technical, so I don't know how to do that. So what I wanted to do was, Mike is in Cornwall, in a beautiful place called Padstow. For any of you that don't know, this should help. So this is the Cornwall Shire, and Mike is here. I mean, Cornwall's not that big. Padstow, it's signpost, you'll find it here. And as I realised that anything outside of Cornwall is basically dragons, isn't it? If you live in Cornwall, here they'd be dragons. So Devon and out. You're not actually Cornish, are you?
No, God no. I'm an interloper. I've lived here since 2007, so that's only 12, 13 years under the belt. So
Yeah.
I mean, once we've got a few generations in the graveyard,
It's like the mafia, isn't it? You've got to go back to like the motherland and so many generations and stuff like that. That's if somebody offers to take you like in a car to make you, don't get in the car. Don't get in the car. because it won't involve pasties. There was so what happens honestly, obviously you get a lot of questions, and we had a question, so I don't want to miss any questions that people watching have asked. And Eric has asked you, have you had any challenges getting stock from suppliers?
Good question. So far, no, actually. So we've sort of stripped back a little bit. So as I indicated, I mean, I'll be open and honest. We're currently trading at about 20% of normal trading. So we've been working stock that we held already, and then we've been keeping stock pretty lean just because of uncertainty about what might be coming next and whether lockdown would get here. So I didn't want to be sat on a kind of huge cash flow problem of a load of stock that I never want to be in a position where I'm saying to suppliers, I'm really sorry, I've got no money. No. So we've been running. The risk of that was that we'd hit a point where suppliers wouldn't have wine for us. But so far, touch wood, we've not had that. Ironically, the only thing that we're starting to run into is an issue with mail order packaging. So, but no, it's been good. It's been steady. It's been good steady supply, and we've been trying to share the love. What trade we are doing, we've been trying to sort of share the love around a number of suppliers, and we put a small selection of our wines in our online shop, and we're just trying to kind of spread the love a bit and give them what trade we can.
Of course, I'd seen that. So check out Binti's website, because I'd seen that you put sort of a selection of kind of reds and whites and a couple of things on there that you can do mail order. Check it out, because I'm going to jump around a little bit. I'd like to tell people watching about the kind of wines that I've had from Bin 2. So I've had the one I'm drinking tonight, which is a South African Viura. I've had a Cornish Orange Orion. I've had an Indian Syrah. Mike, can I just ask, have you never heard of Argentine Malbec or Pinot Grigio? Have you just not heard of it? Because good, if you haven't, good.
Well, we've got some mainstays as well. The kind of I do enjoy finding unusual and quirky stuff to pad around the kind of mainstays that people would expect to.
You can't talk about your team that way. This is being recorded. Somebody said here, sorry, Nicola Barnes, 1986, said, I had an amazing time at Bin 2 Wine Bar in Padstow and can't wait to come back for the rosé. So that's always nice. Always nice to hear.
That is kind of. Were you talking about our rosé? I mean, you were just about to talk about Richard Kelly's wine there, weren't you?
I was, yes, which I bought from you. These Liberator wines are fantastic.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I know you know this story, but assuming that some people may not. I mean, Richard Kelly is a master of wine and a good guy, and he ships some wines in, but the Liberator wines are his own creation, really, and the whole story behind them is that he works principally, but not only, in South Africa. He's had projects elsewhere. He finds little parcels of juice that otherwise isn't going to go to a good home. And it's not that it's bad juice, it just might not fit with the winemaker's plan for that year. It might be too small a quantity for them to do something commercial with. And so typically it would end up getting, blended away into something anonymous. And what Richard does when he finds an example of really good juice like that, he buys it and then brands it under the Liberator brand, always attaches a story. And there are a whole bunch of episodes. I've lost track of how many episodes he's got now, but each of them is a one-off. I think there's only ever been one that he's repeated, which is the Bishop and Norwich, which is fortified red, but they're all done on the basis of, when they're gone, and they're always really small batches, and they're always great wines.
Yeah, so Karen, who's watching, because I thought they were at episode 20, it seems he's up to episode 23. I didn't realise there were that many wines now, sort of under the Liberator label. I think I've had maybe 5 or 6 of that 23, but they've just, this is the thing I was talking about earlier on the interview I did before, was they're just interesting, right? They've got great stories, each and every one of these. Not only are they really good wines, but they've got a real genuine, interesting story, right?
Yeah, that's right, and they're definitely worth hunting down. I've only got a few left now. I think you got the second to last bottle of that one you're enjoying there. So I'm looking forward to seeing them on the shelves again when we return to some sort of normality. But as you say, they're all great. They're all unique. And what I love about them, in fact, I took a little bit of inspiration from Richard's Liberator. It's what set me off doing our own project. So our first run of projects was called Jammy Git, and we've got a couple of Jammy Git wines now, and the Jammy Git is not an indication of the flavour profile of the it's a nod to how a playful nod to how lucky we are to do what we do. And I settled on Jammy Git because the first wine that we found to buy and do something similar to Richard just fell upon by luck, and it just struck me that poor Ed Richards out there, proper wine guy, hunting these things, all of his experience and expertise, and I just get a bit lucky sometimes things fall my way, and so it was the case with the first one where we bought a barrel of a really good Merlot from Bordeaux that was made by a mate of mine. It was the first vineyard that visited after we'd sort of fallen into ownership of Bin 2 and got caught up in the sort of romantic moment of wandering around the vineyard. It was his 2012 Merlot that he had in barrel at the time, and it was still a long time being ready, but you could tell it was tasting great. Really good sort of straight Merlot. And I just said to him at the time, well, let me know when that's ready and I'll have some. And a couple of years later, he said, well, it's ready. And I said, well, how much have you got? And he said, well, I've got one barrel. I said, well, how about I take the lot, and we'll do something fun with it as a collaboration. And that was really born of looking at what Richard had done. And what I love about what Richard does, and hopefully what we do, is I've got no time really for typical kind of white label where you're buying juice and sticking your own label on it so no one else can how much it should be. I like to identify things that are unique or different in some way that we've got a connection with. I don't hide where it's from. We co-promote it, and we put the story of where it's come from. So anyone who wants to find out what those winemakers are selling similar wines for, they can find it. And we like to use it as a way of singing about that producer as well as our involvement.
I'll just jump in because Rich Kelly's literally just the Liberator wine has literally just joined, and Liberator wine. Hello, Richard, we were literally just talking about episode 11. Mike's just given everybody a brilliant rundown on episode 11, and we were saying that once all this is over, we're looking forward to seeing a lot more of the Liberator wines on everybody's shelves. So thank you for joining. And Mike, sorry for sort of jumping in there and interrupting. I think what I'd say to you, and I've noticed on your posts and in sort of messages we've had with each other, you knock yourself an awful lot, and I picked up where you said how lucky you've been. In life you make your own luck, I firmly believe, and I know it's nice to kind of be sort of a little bit playful and sort of that kind of thing, but I genuinely don't think you give yourself enough credit for what you've achieved.
Oh, well, you're very kind. It's the curse of imposter syndrome, and there's no trade like wine trade that can bring that imposter syndrome. But you are kind of. But I'm not embarrassed about the fact we have been lucky. I mean, you're very generous. If I was to, my wife Mary is my business partner, and she's a legend. And I guess if I was to allow myself to say one thing we do well, we are quite brave. We give things a go. That whole kind of living the dream thing that people often say, it was born of a choice we made to relocate from London and move to Cornwall, and a lot of people dream about it and don't quite take the leap. Yes, that's one thing we do. We're quite brave and very.
I was going to say your wife Mary must be very brave. I mean, she said yes to you, so one imagines she must be one of the bravest people around, surely.
I'll set them up.
But I've been looking for a new comedy partner, somebody that's actually funny, ideally. So I wanted to ask you again, for anybody that's watching. So I know that you have a military background. You were in the forces.
A long time ago. And
I don't really know what it is you did, but I'm aware that you're one of this country's many NHS heroes. I know you're involved with I understand you're not frontline, you're not a doctor, but you're NHS, you're still a hero. That's a fact. End of discussion as far as I'm concerned. But I was curious how you've gone from obviously military background, NHS, to just going, oh, let's open a wine shop. And not only that, making it the best wine shop in the UK. And it was Harper's that said that, not me. Although I agree.
Oh man, you really are too kind to me. How do I unpick that? I left the military in 2000 when I was 30 years old. It was just a
I'm so much younger than you.
I got lots of grey. So yeah, it was just a natural jumping off point, and I left. I was an infantry captain when I left, and I had ended up with a specialism in counterinsurgency, which sounds really glamorous and exciting, but it meant that I'd done a lot of preparation for people deploying into theatres that are not traditional warfare, and so lots of major incidents. So I fell into the job in the health service, which was looking at disaster management and contingency planning. So it's everything through from train crashes to planning for pandemics. Funny enough, was part of my job in the aftershock of 9/11 was a big part of my life.
Cool.
So I worked in the health service in that role, and then I ended up working for the London Ambulance Service in a variety of roles. I ended up being there in charge of operations for South London. So everything south of the Thames was my patch. And I just hit a point where I'd met Mary. I just needed a sort of a change of pace, change of life. We both come out of the back end of other relationships, and we're ready to do something new. And we took a bit of a plunge, and I think it was only 3 months after our first date, when we met at a good friend's wedding. 3 months after our first date, we were house hunting in Cornwall, which sounds insane when I now an audience of complete strangers. So we moved to Cornwall. We set up what was a kind of boutique B&B before that was a thing. We ran that for a number of years, and Mary and I became good customers at Bin 2. And if you wind the clock forward, when we sold our business, I ended up working at Bin 2 for the previous owner. I was working there a few days a week, and then after about a year or so of that, he approached us and asked if we'd like to buy the place. And as I say, we like a project. We were ready for something new, so we sort of tumbled into the wine trade, and that was 6 years ago, which is insane.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yesterday was my son's birthday, and he was 7, and I was just imagining how quickly that 7 years has gone. Obviously, running your own business, particularly in wine, that's kind of like having a baby in itself. So that 6 years must have just.
It has flown by, and funnily enough, Mary was heavily pregnant with our second child, Thomas. So she was she had Thomas in tail end November, and we picked up the keys to Bin 2 mid January. So it's kind of insane. And then as you indicated, along the way, I'd continued working for the NHS. I still do 3 days a week, working for the ambulance services on kind of national policy stuff, so operational policy. So it's bit of a bonkers juggling at the wine shop and the other life. Okay. But variety's not,
Exactly. I have so many conversations with almost everybody I meet in the wine industry, where it revolves around that. Do you know why we do what we do? It's the lifestyle. It's the people you meet. It's the places it takes you. You don't do it for the hours or the money. You do it for that. It's so much more than that. It really is a lifestyle, isn't it?
Well, it kind of is. I kind of make a living from it as well.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, yeah. These shirts don't pay for themselves. I should say. Talking about wine. So
yeah. Whenever anyone says to me in the shop that, I'd love a little lifestyle business like this, it's like I keep smiling, I keep polishing the glass, but it's like there's a lot of hours that go with this,
Yeah.
On Instagram.
It's that thing where you see, I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it where you see people buy a pub, and they sort of go, we've drunk in pubs our whole lives. We could run a pub, and you go, nah. It's the hours and hours and hours that go into running a pub or running a wine shop, and especially as you said, you're the. So again, for people watching, you're the hybrid model where you're a wine shop, but you also you sort of act like I don't know what would you call it, a bar. You can drink in and you have coffee and sort of a little bit of food.
Yeah, so we're about 50-50 really, maybe sort of 55% bar sales now versus 45 off sales, roughly something like that. It adjusts with, but yeah, that's our model. Commonly called the hybrid.
Yeah,
that's what.
Fantastic. I think
And it's great. What I like about it, I mean, I love playing the host, and I love the social element of Bin 2. I've never had a day where I've not wanted to go in and can't be asked today.
yeah.
And the great thing about it is that it enables us, because we've got a range of wines on by the glass, maybe a dozen or so wines by the glass. We're really lucky in Padstow. People coming on holiday. There are some great restaurants there, so they're already keyed up to eat great food, drink nice wine, and it enables us to make some braver choices about what we put on by the glass. So we don't have to put on things that are the normal mainstay. And I really like the fact that we can introduce some people to some different wines that they might not otherwise try, and we pour a little splosh in a glass for them if they come in saying that they fancy New Zealand Sauvignon and we don't have one on at the moment, and they look a bit disappointed. I say, have a splash of this, and I'll pour them a glass of Riesling without telling them it's a Riesling. It's a really bright Aussie Riesling, and they're like, wow, that's. I said, well, it's a Riesling. But I hate Riesling. You clearly don't.
You like.
And, yeah, and that's and I really enjoy that. It's good fun.
Brilliant. A question here. So Karen asked the question: how is so you've rearranged your shop so that it's not by country, it's by style. And the question is,
yep.
Obviously pre-lockdown, how was that sort of looking like working for you?
Yeah, we were getting good feedback. So it was driven really by kind of years of just observing how do people ask us for a recommendation, and the vast majority of people are, when you ask them the question, other than sort of proper sort of wine buffs who really are in the minority in terms of who come into our shop, people always lead with a style or a flavor profile they're looking for, and we'd end up having a dance around from one set to the other, one country to the other, to make a number of recommendations. So we grouped it by, and we were getting good feedback. And again, it had the effect of by grouping wines by style, it nudged people to try something a little bit different. So we got more people trying Hungarian Furmin because it was kind of over in a section where they might have been looking at a Sauvignon and they see Furmin there and they ask about it, and I tell them about it and they give it a whirl and they love it and they come back and they want to do something again. So we've got a really great Greek that used to languish in the tiny section in the corner of the shop, and now it's up there front with some more counterparts, and you can say to someone, well, if you normally go for a razor sharp Chablis, then why not give this a whirl? You'll really like it. Fish and chips. So the style approach, early indications that it's working well, and it's been tested by wine buffs who come in knowing what they're looking for, and they're a bit startled when they see the style, but they've always gone to the right section to find what they want. So so it kind of seems to be all right.
Brilliant. So so Carrie has just joined us, and apologise for being late because she was on WSET Zoom webinar on Rioja. Carrie, there's no need to apologise. Although the first 20 minutes of this session with Mike were fantastic, you've missed some absolute gold. There was a lot of information. There was a lot of kind of secrets coming out, so you'll have to watch it on replay. But never apologise for you're not late at all. I never need an apology for anything. So going back, you're right, because through my experience of when I was running an indie, people would come in and they either wanted something very specific. So the customer might say, I want an Argentine Malbec or a Kiwi Sauvignon, and they say Kiwi Sauvignon, you just go, get out. Or they might come and say, I like full-bodied red, or I like zesty white. So it makes a lot of sense. I can really see that. Eric asked the question about so thinking ahead to the future. So if we're all allowed to go back out, but kind of have to maintain social distancing, how would you sort of manage that? What kind of effect do you see that having on Bin 2?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm turning my head to at the moment, actually. And it'll be a challenge. I mean, we're lucky that we've got quite a big outside terrace, and in the summer, that's where everyone wants to sit. So I think we would just have to focus on it would be outdoor drinking only rather than indoor drinking, because our wine shop is tiny. You couldn't realistically maintain social distancing other than having a couple of people in, or at the most. So I think we're probably restricted to the outside terrace. And I saw something really interesting on Instagram the other day. I think it was from a Scandi country where a restaurant with outside seating had bought a bunch of mini greenhouses,
Right.
and the tables were in these mini greenhouses. Now that would be torture on our sunny terrace in the summer, but it did make me think about some sort of little beach hut arrangement or something similar like that. So it could be that we just sort of, compartmentalise the outdoor tables, either with a bit of screening, or we get a bit of overhead cover there in case the weather doesn't cooperate, and do some sort of mini beach hut type effect.
Of course.
Benefit being that if you do get an annoying customer, you can close the door.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not going to be down there for a little while, so don't worry. I just say hello to Caroline from Danebury Fizz, who's joined us from Danebury Vineyard. I don't know if you tried any of the Danebury Vineyard stuff. I had a couple last week, really worth looking at, from Hampshire, some very interesting stuff. Anyway, so in terms of your range, because whenever I talk about Bin 2, I always talk about what I really like about your range is it feels really esoteric. So to someone like me who's a wine nut, I can go and go, oh, I've never had that, what's this? This is interesting. You still manage to have what I call the safety nets, which sounds like a pejorative, but I don't mean that. So you still have, the kind of Kiwi Sauvignon or the Argentine Malbec or something like that. What I guess when you're buying a new wine for the shop, what's your process to do that?
It's really haphazard. I sometimes buy too much of stuff that I like. Actually, the thing with the style, when I rearrange a shop by style rather than by country, it really exposed some holes. And I could see actually, that's the kind of style of wine that I don't typically go for, and it's looking really gappy. So I think the new style-led approach is giving us a new structure. So I've got cleverer people than me who've designed this Uber spreadsheet now that replicates the shelves, and it tells us how many spaces we've got for bold, rich wine, and it's got lined up, the current range. And all the wines that I found at a tasting, I'm like, I want to buy it. They're saying to me, rather than buying it all, what we're going to do is we're going to have to bringing them in. Yeah. So it's going to put some controls on me, although I might just still have a little spending spree. But but the process normally is I go to a couple of big tastings a year. I always drag Kate along, who makes everything work at Bin 2. She's the brains of the operation. But in truth, I really don't enjoy big tastings. I find it really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So I tend to hit tastings, and then I prefer to taste wines in smaller batches of 6 to 12 wines with individual suppliers. Yeah. Ideally, if they can come, great, or we get some samples in. And I just need a little bit more time wine than I can manage at a big tasting. I've just not got the razor edge palate to 150 wines in a day and be intelligent about number 150 in the way that hopefully I was at least halfway about number one.
It's all too much, isn't it? So I didn't do the London Wine Fair last year because I was ill with pneumonia, and I'd recovered enough to go to Imbibe, and I'd never usually done Imbibe, which is obviously smaller than the London Wine Fair, but even that I turned up and was like, this is just too much. And you're right, because you start off and you're focused and you're razor sharp, like it's a razor sharp. But by the end of the day, I'm sitting there going, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm tasting. My palate's tired. I'm tired. I had a break for lunch, which included 3 pints. I can't make an adequate buying decision here. I much prefer so obviously I bumped into you at Daniel Lambert's tasting. I was literally on the way out, so you went at the right time. But those smaller, so things like Sit, that sort of thing. All Points North was one that used to be up in Edinburgh. That kind of tasting, I think, was much more interesting. Someone said they're drinking Safety Net right now, drinking Kyken Malbec. Safety Net certainly not said as a pejorative. I didn't mean that. Do you know the Kyken Malbec? Have you had that one?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. We sell it, and yeah. Hey, look, no. Like you, the last thing I'd want is to come across like one of those massive wine arses.
Oh yeah. Not that.
Yeah. I drink everyday mainstay wines myself. I just like to kind of surround those mainstays with some weird and interesting bits and bobs we found. We've got a great lady working with us now. Kate's been on maternity leave, and an awesome lady called Tamsin Jones, who's a legend in the Cornwall wine scene. Yeah. She's been working with us, introduced us to some new wines that I wouldn't have thought of. We're doing much more with deep natural wines than we would have done had Tamsin not come along. So Yeah, there's always something new to find. There's
There's
always
always something new, and there's a wine for every occasion. So, I mean, the amount of Argentine Malbec I get through in this house is mega. It's massive, and that's actually not all my wife's choice. It is down to me. But I think that's the thing about wine is having, so even Pinot Grigio, right? When you need to clean the toilet, that stuff's great. Obviously, I jest, you can't account for pitch and toe, but there's a time and a place for every wine. And sometimes a guy I used to work for, he said, do you know what? Sometimes it's a dinner suit, and sometimes it's jeans and a t-shirt, right? And sometimes you want really fancy, esoteric, weird wine. Sometimes you want a good, solid Argentine or Kiwi. Every wine has a time and a place.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I think what I try and do is I'm a lousy business. I'm not very commercial. What I try and do is make sure that those mainstays we've got in, I try and make sure that they are there for a reason as well, and that there is that they're a really good example. And every wine merchant's going to say this, aren't they? But I try and make sure they are a really good example of that mainstay wine. And I'm lucky that historically we've not had to work to a price point too much. People seem to be willing to trust us and spend a couple of quid more, and I feel better about always putting a really good example of that mainstay. Someone saying, this is what a New Zealand Sauvignon can be like if you're willing to spend a couple of quid more. And we got a great one from another master of wine, Liam Stevenson, who makes a New Zealand Sauvignon called Dividing Line.
That's it, Dividing Line. Sauvignon for adults, isn't it? For grown-ups, he calls it.
Nice to be New Zealand Sauvignon, but it's been barrel fermented. It's just not so aggressive. It's a bit more restrained, much more refined, and it's not cheap. I mean, it's low 20s, but it's an example of what New Zealand Sauvignon can be when you get a really good one. And with the wine, we're having one by the glass. We were able to put that on by the glass without it being at a ridiculous price, because we don't charge the same margins as other bars and restaurants do and have to survive. I'm not being critical, but retailing, and people can see the price on the shelf. We've just got a flat corkage rate of bottle plus 10 quid. So if you are going to splash on a wine, you can get a better wine for less money by coming into Bin 2 and just having a cruise and picking a bottle out.
I think that's a great model. I was in Buenos Aires on a trip years ago, and I went to this place called Aldo's Vinoteca, which was like restaurant, cafe, bar, nightclub. It was the whole lot. And it was the first time I'd really seen it where it's like the wine costs this much, but if you want to drink it in, it's like you said, it's like an extra 50 pesos or something. Nothing. And it's such a great model. I had a question for you with regards to your range. Do you have any wines from Montilla Morales or Sherry?
Sherry, yes. I have to say, it's not a big seller for us. I mean, and I think owning that. I love the stuff, but it's getting people to drink it. And we've got it on by the glass. We make it a really appealing price. I mean, sherry is the best value you're going to get in the wine world.
Yeah.
But we try, but you can't force it. Even when we run sherry events, people come along and they love it, they enjoy it, they find it transformative, but it still shifts really slowly.
Yeah.
It's justice of the wine world, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed. It's you said it there, and I think I was thinking this. I don't think I've met anybody that works in wine that has ever said they don't like sherry. I don't. If I've met someone that said that works in wine, I don't recall them. Probably because I said it and I went, "Get out! I don't want to talk to you anymore."
No one. It's like working in wine and saying you don't like Riesling. No one's ever going to admit it.
Just if you don't admit it, whatever you do, because you'll become a wine trade pariah. Another question, which was from Laura. How are you engaging and keeping clients at this time of lockdown? So are you doing anything different in terms of your social media or what you're offering?
In truth, no, and I don't want to sound all worthy, but the work I do for the ambulance sector has been absolutely insane. I normally do 3 days a week. Been something approaching 6 days a week at the moment. Pretty much every, as you might imagine, every operational policy clinical policy we've got as needs to be revised, and it's constantly changing to meet current circumstances. So so it's meant that that's been the principal reason why we've kept things quite lean. We are just focusing on home delivery, national mail order. I had great aspirations doing stuff like you're doing, Lee, but I'm afraid time just hasn't been there to do it really.
No, of course, and if you've got the time, you can do it well. Whereas I don't have an excuse for this. I've got time, I just don't do it well. I've got a couple of questions of my own before I ask them. So Nicola Barnes, who earlier she said she'd had a great time at Bin 2, sort of drinking outside. Can you recommend a rosé that you were able to deliver? So I don't know where Nicola Barnes is. I assume she's local to Padstow, but what rosés are you delivering at the moment?
Well, in our online shop at the moment, we've got, and Nicola, you may have had both of these, and thank you for the kind words, by the way. You may have had both of these. We've got a Provence rosé called X, which is quite well known, and for people who like Provence rosé and that's all they want, I don't try and persuade them otherwise. We just make sure we've got quite a nice example. X rosé on, and then but the one I really like it, if we can get people to try it, there is a Côtes du Rhône rosé, which is just fabulous. It just gives you, it's cheaper, and it just gives you a bit more bang for your buck. There's just a bit more body and grip to it, and it's still lovely on its own. It's still everything you'd want from a kind of bright, fresh summertime rosé, but there's just a little bit more about it. If you're gonna have it with a barbecue, have it with food, it's just really, really smashable. So there are those two, and then the other rosés we've got on, we've got the last of a rosé that I imported after our buy-in trip to McLaren Vale last year, which is a Nebbiolo rosé. So if you want to try something a bit different, again, that'd be a really good barbecue rosé. It's a bit fuller, nowhere near too sweet. It's still a great rosé, but it's just better with food. And then Fizzy Bum Bum is of course sparkling rosé, which there's only about 120 bottles left now, I think.
Oh wow, not a lot. I say, what's great about hearing you answer that question is what's so great about any independent merchant in this country is you can just hear how much you care about the product, the customer, the producer. I just think that's wonderful. And I have to say, so that I know the Boutonneau Rhone wines very well. They are fantastic value for money. Those Boutonneau made Rhones are absolutely staggering. So good.
The Côtes du Rhône as well. The Côtes du Rhône Village is a great wine, and we're regular and their rosé absolutely smashing through it.
Brilliant. So Eric asks, so I'll ask this question and then we get to the really hard hitting bit. Nicola says, thank you, she will place her order. Thank you, Nicola, that's brilliant. Mike doesn't know, but Mary agreed to give me 20% of any revenue generated from this conversation. Anyway, Eric says, can you recommend, sorry, I've just lost it. Can you recommend great value white and a great value red for somebody who's not bought from Bin 2 before?
Oh, crikey. It's the value question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That was Eric's trick, you see. He's done that on purpose. Well played.
Well, I mentioned earlier. Let's build around a mainstay, New Zealand Sauvignon. So we've got. I mentioned Liam Stevenson's more expensive Sauvignon, but we've also got his Fincher and Co Sauvignon, which is named after his son Fincher. I think Fincher's his son's middle name, and that's £15, and it's a really good example of a nice everyday New Zealand Sauvignon that's not too aggressive and it's a bit more restrained. And if you're in that zone, you could do worse than to take a look at our Hungarian ferment, the Cardos ferment. I absolutely love that wine. I haven't had anything else positive feedback about that yet when we've introduced people to it. It's a really nice alternative, easy drink on its own, really versatile food wine. If you can lay your hands on some mackerel or something like that, the Carlos will be great. And if you carry on feeling wacky again, I mentioned earlier the Assertico that we have on the Greek. It's from Greek Assertico. it's delicious. Again, £15. I don't think I've chosen a better wine for than that one this year. And we took part in a virtual festival the other day with some local chefs down in Paz. It's going all over the country, so it's got an amazing lineup of chefs doing live demos, and I'm lucky enough to be asked to pick a pairing for Nathan Hale's dish. And I thought I got notification. I thought he's going to do something out there, isn't he? He's going to do something really simple but really special. And he made a fish finger sandwich using turtle. And we paired Vertigo with the finger sandwich, and it went really, really well.
Okay. Now, just because what happens is this cuts off after an hour, and I don't want that to happen. I'd rather bring it to a smooth conclusion to give the impression that this has been an uninterrupted 60-minute stream of success. So I need to hit Mike now with these are the hard-hitting questions. This is the difficult bit. This is like the Frost Nixon bit for you. So I'm going to hit you with these, okay? The first question is from my son to you. And this is the big question. Everybody that comes on whatever this show is supposed to be gets asked this. So the big question is, what is your favourite flavour of ice cream?
Favourite flavour of ice cream? Oh man, that's hard.
Usually this is quite a quick bit.
I'm going to say caramel, of course it is.
It's what? What flavour? I lost you. What flavour?
Salted caramel, of course.
Salted caramel. That's a really good answer. We can take that. That's very good. Liam has just joined us. Liam Stevenson. Thank you for joining. Mike was just talking up some of your wines. So yeah, you joined in too late to hear it, but he was singing your praises, as indeed we all do. So the next big question. We've done the ice cream one. I know this is a subject really close to your heart, and we talked about this in the past. Who is your favourite snooker player?
Well, I think nobody encapsulates exactly how interesting snooker is than Steve Interesting Davis.
He's actually, I've met Steve Davis. He's actually a very interesting man. He genuinely is very interesting.
I'm sure to you, he's a very interesting.
What is your beef with the Bays? What is all this about?
Look, everyone is entitled to their hobbies, but let's not call it a sport. Come on.
It is the sport of sports. The sport upon which all other sports are actually based is the sport of snooker. So, is there, and this will be my final question because it will cut off in a couple of minutes. Do you have a particular wine memory or moment where perhaps you tasted something, or maybe you're on holiday somewhere, where you experienced a wine and you sort of went, that was the moment where you went, oh wow, this is really interesting stuff. I'm interested in this. Is there a particular moment you can recollect?
Oh, is this the kind of transformative moment that sort of everyone talks about?
Yeah, effectively so. This is the really touchy-feely question, really.
Oh man, I'm right. I didn't have that. I didn't have that eureka moment. Mine was more slow burn. So it's a slowly building kind of relationship rather than something that just hit me. So no, I don't have that one wine experience. Again, it's too much to go into now. But for me, for a long time in my life, wine was quite a negative thing, just in terms of some of the prejudices that go with it. And I was commissioned from the ranks as a soldier. I went to Sandhurst. You can imagine, right? So there were some things that wine were loaded with, made it a pretty negative thing to wine. Yeah, quite late in life, moment. It was just a build, really. So sorry, that's a disappointing answer.
No, do you know what? That's probably the best answer I've ever had to that question. Because, well, partly it's true, because it's really easy to answer that question. Oh yeah, I was in Barolo and I don't know, I was stood on Monprivato and Giuseppe Mascarelli Open 1960, so it's easy to kind of throw that answer out. So to have that really honest answer, and actually that you've come from that point where maybe wine wasn't such a positive thing to anyone. Now that's really interesting. Thank you. Right, so Tim just says he's on his way because his daughter's starting a vlog. That's brilliant. Help your daughter with that, as I know you are. That's fantastic. Mike, I'm going to bring this to a close. I apologise that what was supposed to be quite a nice, easy sort of bit of time on Tuesday turned into a real nightmare for you. But it turned into a nightmare for anybody watching because they were stuck looking at this. At least you kind of restore the balance here. Thank you very much for finding the time and talking to me and just sharing, you know, your experiences in wine and Bin2 and what Bin2 is all about. And I hope that this is all over soon and that business just gets back to right where it should be and I can come down and darken your door again.